All right, I guess we're recording. Cool. So what's up going on? What's going on, guys? We got another video here, interview with Torrey Penn. Torrey, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've seen you on Instagram. We've had some cursory conversations on a couple of different Facebook groups back and forth talking about things. But I don't really honestly know that much about you. I know that you're an avid fitness person. You love your food. You eat fairly healthy, but I love how you present, like you're always into like, hey, this is a great combination. You've got all kinds of different colors and you do a bunch of different stuff. We'll probably talk about that because you had a
Yeah.
post last week that I wanted to ask you about, because it kind of threw me off a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I think you
All right.
probably know the post I'm talking about. It was let's just say it was a higher carb post than normal. Um,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about you, where you're coming from, and kind of what you do.
All right. Well, my name's Torrey Penn. I just turned 44 years old. Reside in the Phoenix area, Arizona.
Mhm.
Grew up in the Midwest in Michigan, Wisconsin for the longest time. So I went to school in Michigan, and then played sports all through growing up through 4 years old up and through college. Soccer was my main forte, even though I played basketball and baseball in high school for a couple years, but soccer was my main area that I focused on. So I just shifted all my attention to that and just tried to be the best that I could be. Got into the fitness area as far as lifting weights and things when I got to college at uh, the main college when I was 21, mainly for the simple fact that in high school I was 140 pounds. I was
Mm,
skinny. I had a gut, and would get picked down with shirts and skins, that kind of stuff. So when I got to
right.
college, my main thing was I just want to feel good about myself. Like I want to be able to take my shirt off and feel confident in the way that I look. And
Mhm.
then just the weightlifting bug bit me, and then I just got addicted to it because it felt really good, and I could see
Yeah.
the change coming over the course of the months and the years and that kind of thing. So it just took off from there. And then 5, 6, 7 years into that, I was doing outside sales in the medical device area, and just got to the point where it was getting harder to see the doctors, and majority of the doctors just didn't appreciate you. And I love the medical device side because being in the OR was, one, cool, two, being able to help people with their health and just making see somebody like improve with something was awesome.
Right.
But just wasn't getting that sort of it was just more stress than anything else. And so I pretty much made sure I had enough money, and I just got into personal training at a local gym, did that for a year,
Mhm.
build up some clientele, and then moved my clients to my garage, and then dabbled in a couple different gyms where I rented space from them just so I had more equipment to use, more
Right. Right.
size, and then potentially get more clients and that kind of stuff. And then when we made the move to Wisconsin is when I mainly just shifted mostly to online coaching because I could help more people. It's
Yep.
more affordable than an inline person, and it just allows me that more flexibility to be able to do more things and not be so tied down to X amount of times that I have to be seeing in front of clients and that. And I
Right.
still occasionally will do it in person, just because as a coach, it's always good to see clients in person and see them move to help you and just to help others, in the area as well. And
Right.
then as far as strength training, I've competed in most things throughout my year, just to try them out. I competed in a couple bodybuilding. I did powerlifting. I did CrossFit. I did OCR, like, and then I've trained for an Ironman as well. So I've dabbled in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just at that point where I can help a lot of people because I've sort of got that background as far as how to train for something and either get stronger, maintain, your strength, and get leaner.
Mhm.
And then also just what I personally enjoy working out to and things like that.
Right. Right. I think your story, especially when you're talking about from when you were in high school, getting into your reason for lifting weights, your reason for getting to that, is an under discussed reason that people have for wanting to get in shape, particularly guys, right? I don't think it's women as much wanting to not be. I mean, I guess it's pretty much everybody, but from the standpoint of wanting to take your shirt off at the beach and feel like, yeah, I got this. You know what I mean? Like there's something
Yeah.
about that. And I can't speak on how a woman would feel about that, but I know they have body issues just like men do, just in a different kind of perspective. But I think when we're talking about guys, the confidence that comes from being strong is, it's crazy. Like, when I was at my worst shape, I was in my mid to late 30s, you know, the I've always been a positive thinker, a positive person, and had that self-confidence. But there was a period of time that I went through where I was forcing that confidence. Like, it wasn't
Mhm.
authentic, it wasn't genuine. And when I started making a change, it wasn't, and this is a kicker, I think, for people to get. It's not when the change happens that you start getting the confidence. It's once you make the decision and you start putting in the work and
For sure.
you're doing what it takes. That's when things start changing in your head. Like, I got this, I can do this, I'm getting better. And that confidence starts, like, to me, as soon as you make the decision, that confidence starts going.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime that I've either changed my nutrition around or I've changed my programming for myself, or when I had a coach that did my programming and we started something new, just that change of knowing something just got me excited. And
Right.
like before even I noticed anything different with what was going on, I just was still more excited about it and just more focused on, making those positive changes.
Yeah. And I'm sure you see this with clients. I know I see it with clients all the time. And they come in, I can't do that. I'm not sure if I can do that. I don't know if I don't want to try that. I'm not ready for that. But then after even sometimes just a couple sessions, right? Just a couple sessions, they come in, you're like, all right, I want you to do this. And you can see that for a split second, there's that hesitation. I don't know if I can, but they've got the experience of what they did last week, of what they did yesterday, to
Yeah.
go, well, wait, I didn't know if I could do that before. Maybe I can. And that switch from I can't, I don't think I can, to maybe I can, that is what it's all about. That is life changing, because now there's opportunity, there's hope, there's a future.
Yep.
That's
Totally agree.
that's what it's all about. That's awesome. What
Yeah.
is you're 44, you said.
Yep.
What is your outlook on the next 20 years? Like, how do you look at, what you're doing now compared to what you were doing when you were 20 versus, and what you're going to be doing 20 years from now?
Yeah, for sure. My mindset has definitely changed just as I've matured, as I've aged, and just the focus or the goals that I have for myself now compared to when I was 20 or even in my 30s is
Hmm.
totally changed. Like for me now, it's yes, I still want to continuously try to get stronger. I still want to try to improve my physique the best that I can.
Yeah.
But in my 20s and 30s is I want to deadlift X amount. I want to back squat this amount. I'm going to compete in this amount. And now probably my late 30s is when it sort of changed, is just now my number one focus is the quality of movement. Like I want to move the best that I can, and any movement that I do, I want to try to do it the absolute best that I can, because one, I want to do what I'm doing now when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. I
Yeah.
understand that I'm not going to, at some point, I'm going to start losing strength, and my goal is just to maintain that. But that doesn't mean when I'm 80 years old, I can't do what I'm doing now. So
Right.
that's my number one focus. Two, I obviously, as we age, no matter how we're doing things, an injury that I got in my 20s, I could just keep on pushing through, and in a week or 2 weeks, it'd be healed.
Right.
Now I do something and it's 2, 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months that I have to like really rehab it, or I've got to be careful with it just to get it healed again. So for me, it's yes, I want to be strong, but I'm not going to push the boundaries as much in my training. I just know if I'm doing a certain movement and I have it set for 6 to 8 reps and I get to rep 4, 20s, 30s, I'm going to push it because it says 6 to 8. Now
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call it good, because tweaking something now means I don't get to train tomorrow. And is 1 or 2 more reps really going to make that impact on my training
Right.
today? No, it's not. So that's where I just know to sort of pull back a little bit if I need to, and I don't have that drive to compete right now, and I'm not sure if I
Hmm.
ever will, because I know what it takes mentally and physically, because I've done
Sure.
it before. And right now I just don't have that. Like I can program something, and if I don't feel like doing it,
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to, I'm going to do something different. I don't want to do, that's a little hard today. Or there's other days where I might program something easier, and man, I just get into it, and I go, no, I'm going to
I
push it a
got
little
more.
harder today.
Yep. Yep.
So, but I don't have that mindset of I have to do this today because my goal is to run, a half marathon, or to squat, 400 pounds. So I have to do this program. I have to stick with this. I just don't have that mindset. And if I
Right.
don't ever have it again, it's not that big of a deal to me, because I enjoy my training now, and what I'm doing, and the broad spectrum, and being creative or trying new things here and there just to see how I respond to it
Mhm.
and how I enjoy it as well. And I tried it for a month or two, don't like it, I'm done with it. Or I really like this. I just like using a sandbag. I never thought I'd use a sandbag. Now it's,
Yeah.
man, I want to incorporate this a lot more because I just like the feel of it. I like the versatility of it. I like how it challenges me in a different way than a standard kettlebell, dumbbell, barbell does. So,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm going to work this in more to my programming because I really enjoy it. And a year ago, 3 years ago, I never would have even thought about using one.
Right. Sandbags are awesome. I love them. Uh, I bought one specifically just because, like, when I sold my gym, I was like, I don't have a sandbag anymore. Crap. I need a sandbag. Like, what am I gonna do without a sandbag? Um, what? So you said two things that I think are key that I really like, particularly now. This applies to everybody, no matter how old you are. But I think really, as we get older, if we don't focus on our movement, we're missing out on what it's all about. Right?
Yeah.
It's if you're 80 years old and you can't move, your quality of life takes a tank, right? It goes in the
Hmm.
tank. So your ability to move, your flexibility, your mobility, your strength, those are the things that you need as you get older. You don't need to do them at the extremes, right? The requirements and what your goals are as you get older change, like you said, but you still need to be able to function.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something to be said for, a mindset that says as we get older, we need to do just as much as we did when we were younger, right? And when we were younger, we did a lot because we want to perform, we want to compete, we want to have fun or whatever. And those goals don't, those are kind of the same goals, but the target is different as we get older. I still want to
Right.
perform. I still want to compete against myself. And I
Yeah.
still want to have fun and enjoy my life. When I'm 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 110, I'm
Yeah.
going to at least, I'll be deadlifting at 110.
Right.
So yeah, I just think that's a huge thing is movement. There's a CrossFit saying, which you probably heard, the magic is in the movement.
Hmm.
Right? The magic is in how you move. How you move determines how efficient you are, how strong you are, how healthy you are. All those things. If you're not moving well, it's a very big indicator that something is wrong.
Right.
And then the other thing, um, you were talking about, crap, it just left me. This happens every time you do a podcast. I forget to take notes while you're talking. And I'm like, oh, there's two things that you said. I got one of them and then I start talking and totally forget the other thing.
Right. Yep.
Um, it'll come back to me. Let's talk about what you think the number one thing people need to work on is. Like if you took all your clients
Hmm.
that you've had over the years, what's probably the number one thing that most people need more work on?
Even for myself, I think one of the big things that a lot of people don't use enough, and I program pretty much for all my clients, for myself daily now, is a lot more tempo work. So tempo, I never really did a ton in my 20s and 30s. It wasn't until I started going through the OPEX CCP and I had a couple of my OPEX coaches and things like this that got
Yep.
to program the tempo a little bit more. And I think that was 37, 38 that I think I started that. And for me, that's a lot of the biggest changes that I noticed in just the look of my muscles and like how I feel and how I move was slowing things down and adding that more of those pause counts to sort of make sure that I can feel the position of the movement because a lot of
Yep.
people just go through a movement and they don't really feel where they're supposed to be feeling. When you slow it down to a 3, 4, 5, 8 second count on a lowering of a squat and then have them sit in that bottom of that position for 2, 3, 5 seconds and then come up, 2 to 5 seconds. I
Right.
mean, it allows you to really focus on the different movements and the different aspects of those muscles and definitely can feel that more.
Yeah.
So definitely tempo. And I think most everybody could use more thoracic mobility just because the majority of people are all at a desk, they're driving.
Yep.
So really
Yep.
focusing on a lot of the upper back, the rear delts, those kinds of things as far as either dynamic movements, prepping
Mhm.
prepping clients or during the movements and or on active recovery days, programming thoracic mobility, yoga movements and those kinds of stuff
Right.
just to do that because, you know, as we age, like our tendons and ligament, everything wants to shrink. So we have to spend more time the more that we age in static positions and or things that we could do in our 20s once a week and be fine. Now in our 40s, 50s, 60s, we have to do those every day. Or you can notice a change going 1 week of not doing something and then try to go back. You've already lost that little bit of range of motion. So
Yeah.
doing that daily is something that's critical.
Another thing that goes into that, and this is something that I preach. So I like what you said about tempo work, because one of my key when I'm coaching, I'm yelling all the time, control. If you can't control the weight, you don't need
Yeah.
to be. It's too heavy. You don't need to be doing it, right? You
Yeah.
should be able to stop on a time. You should be able to do whatever you want to with that weight when it's your hands, or on your back, or wherever it is. So control is definitely key. Being able to feel your muscles, what's happening. Are you using the right muscles? Do you feel it in your back? You're doing a deadlift. Do you feel it in your back? Do you feel it in your butt? Do you feel it in your quads? Like, where are you? Where's your
Right.
positioning? What muscles are you using? That's huge. Then, see, I did it again. Good gosh, you were just talking about
Thoracic mobility. Any type of
thoracic mobility.
stuff?
Good. I swear, like I'm getting. It's crazy. I feel like my brain. I have so many things going on sometimes. Like I'm thinking about stuff and just whatever.
Yep.
Mobility is one of the key things that, like you said, as we get older, we lose elasticity. And the mobility, again, going back to magic of the movement, that statement isn't just for control, isn't just for learning the technique, isn't just for being able to be efficient, but it's also a range of motion focus. So you can get, and this blows people's minds sometimes, you can improve your range of motion by executing good range of motion, right?
Right.
So like, it's like, okay, well, I need to spend 20 minutes going over here and doing this warm up before I can work out. Okay, how about we spend 10 minutes, and then when you actually perform the exercise, you do it to the maximum correct possible range of motion when you're doing the work, right? If you're
Right.
doing the work in the proper range of motion, you're going to improve and maintain your flexibility. You're going to improve and increase muscle fiber contraction. Like, you're going to do all these things because you're actually moving in the ranges that things were intended to move, and not half-assing it. So, there's three things I think that, for me, I talk to any of my clients will be able to tell you: control, range of motion in the execution is working your mobility and flexibility. And then every exercise is a core exercise. I don't care what it is. Every exercise is a core exercise.
Yeah.
And that, again, is another thing that people kind of go, what are you talking about? Like, if you're not engaging your core, if you don't have that core to extremity engagement, like, you're losing everything. Like, you've got to be able to, again, control what your body is doing. And the first step of control is bracing and core control. So that's cool. Let's talk about your 44. I see you post all the time your different workouts with your two coaches. Right? What kind of dogs are they?
They are Shepskis. So they're a mix between German Shepherd and a Husky.
Nice.
So we
Okay.
rescued the one 10 years ago, and he's a Siberian Husky, definitely has a Shepherd in him. And then the other one we rescued last year, and she's like an Agati Husky, and she might have a little Shepherd in her, but she probably has a little bit of Wolf.
Oh, interesting.
So, but for us, it's the best breed that we've ever had. And I bred German Shepherds. I've had Labs. She's had a bunch of different breeds herself, and just, you get the intelligence of both the Shepherd and the Husky. You get the playfulness of the Husky and the howling and all this, and then the Shepherd has that docile. So you don't have that. They both don't need to go for runs every single day like a normal Husky does. Gotcha. So it's one of those where you get that best breed of the best of all the breeds combined.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Nice. What does your daily routine look like?
There you are.
Yeah, I just locked up for a second. What does your daily routine look like?
So I'm pretty much Monday through Sunday, exact same thing every day. Wake up at 5:45, let the dogs out, and then I have some cold brew coffee, sort of go through any type of email messages, maybe from potential clients, check social media, get my pre-workout stuff around, and then I usually train around 7:30 in the morning or so till, it could be 9, it could be 10:30. It just depends on if I'm doing any type of longer endurance work in the mix. And then get done, sort of just cool down, eat some food, and then my afternoons are mostly client programming, doing client consults, those kinds of stuff.
Right.
And then time with the wife and the pups, just hanging out, relaxing at
Okay.
night. And then I'm usually in bed 9:30, pretty much every single day. I try to be a trooper for the wife on a Saturday and stay up till 10:30 maybe, but it doesn't really happen that often just because I get
Yeah.
up early every single day.
Right.
So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It sounds like similar to mine, except we flip. I do all my work stuff in the morning, and then I work out and do all the other stuff in the afternoon.
yeah.
I can't seem to. I know I like working out. Usually it's like 2 o'clock. I like going to the gym around
Okay.
2 o'clock, and like 2 to 4
Yeah.
is kind of my time. What does your, because I know this is definitely going to be something that, I started out this whole influencer thing in the carnivore space, so I'm kind of in that
Mhm.
keto carnivore area, and it's always something that we talk about. What is your nutrition lifestyle like? What do you focus on?
Yeah. So I've pretty much done every single type of way of eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I did vegan one back in the day because I had a client that was that, and I had no idea how to help her. I don't know what to eat. I don't know. So from that point on, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the different ways. One,
Hmm.
just see how my body responds. Two, if I have a client, I want to make sure that I'm helping them and doing it the healthiest way possible. So I've done paleo, I've done, vegan, I've done keto, I've done carnivore, I've done high carb, low carb, high fat,
Hmm.
low fat. I've done all of them in the past, at
Yeah.
least for 3 to 4 months, up to 10 months. I've done specific ones. So
Mhm.
some, hey, for the most part, I can get results. It still comes down to calories in, calories out, and then the appropriate, amount of protein, and then the carbs and fats, depending on one, overall health, and
Mhm.
then performance, and then what I'm doing and those kinds of stuff. So for me right now, currently, it's I get, try to get my 10 shades of fruits, vegetables, mostly vegetables in every
Mhm.
day. And then
Mhm.
I get my protein from my animal meats mostly. I
Mhm.
love ground chicken, ground turkey, beef, steak, fish. And then uh, my carbohydrates right now mostly come from, besides like the fruits and veggies and the things that are in condiments, pretty much are just around pre and during my training. So before I train, 20 to 30 minutes before I train,
Mhm.
I have about 15 grams of whey and then 25 to 50 grams of cyclic dextrin. And then
Mhm.
during my training, I do another 15 grams of whey. And then that could be anywhere from 30 to 100 grams of cyclic dextrin, just depending on how long I'm doing, the intensity that I have
Sure.
going on. And
Sure.
then my post workouts usually an hour and a half after I'm done. Just depends on. There's no meal time that I'm really worried about. It's just more of, sometimes I get done at say 10 o'clock
Mhm.
and I'm hungry at 11. There's other times where I get done and I'm not hungry till noon. Well, I'm not going to force it. And I've already had enough protein and that kind of stuff in my body that I'm not worried about losing muscle and all that kind of, and
Right.
muscle breakdown and stuff. So
Right.
it's not a worry issue. So then I have around 80 to 90 grams of protein, and then trace amounts of carbohydrates from, right now, my biggest kick that I've been on for a long time is my contraption of my waffles that I make, just because waffles are delicious. And with me having most of my carbs around all my training, and regular waffles just don't fill me up. I can
Yeah.
eat a ton of regular, just those kind of carbs just don't fill me up. They're
Right.
delicious and I don't mind them. There's nothing wrong with them. But like my wife can have one Belgian waffle that's regular that has like 30 or 40 grams of carbs in it and she's done. Like she's good. For me, I could have 6 or 7 of those things and still just keep eating. So I found the variety that I enjoy, and it's pretty much either 100 milliliters of like egg beaters or one whole egg, and then around 15 grams of coconut flour per that 100 milliliters or per
Mhm.
one egg. So I do 2 Belgian waffles. So I'll use 200 milliliters, give or take, about of egg beaters, and then about 30 grams of coconut flour. A little bit of sugar-free syrups just to sort of change the flavor around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mix it all up, and then I get 2 huge Belgian waffles it has like 16 grams of carbs, but some good fiber from the coconut, and then some protein from the egg beaters. And then I'll have either ground chicken, ground turkey, chicken sausages, something like that
Mhm.
along with my meal.
Mhm.
And then I'll have dinner around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. Then that's where I'll have some more veggies, usually like some lettuce, some steamed vegetables, and then a pound of beef,
Yeah.
chicken, turkey, again,
Yeah.
whatever the case is.
How much protein do you get in a day?
Right now, I'm getting in about 230 grams.
Okay.
So I'm roughly around 100, and depending on after last weekend, I'm a little higher than normal just because of all the extra water retention. But normally I'm around in the low 180s. So I'm about 1.2 to 1.3 grams, give or take,
Okay.
per lean body mass of protein. So I'm on pretty much maybe 1.4. I'm pretty much on the level of the amount that that's doable for me, that's
Sure.
actually like going to serve a purpose. And that's just
Yeah.
mainly for the same simple fact that I'm decently lean. If I wasn't as lean, I wouldn't be taking in as much because I wouldn't need it. But being as lean as I am, I need that little extra amount protein. So it'll fluctuate from 185 to 230, just depending on,
Okay.
the type of nutrition that I'm taking in at the time.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. I'm at 185, and I'm about I average between 2 and 230. I'm
Yeah.
trying to shoot for a little bit higher than that, but like you said, it's really hard to get in. Anything over 250 is really a
Yeah.
challenge. And
Yeah.
it's funny for us talking about, if over 220, over 230s kind of can be a challenge. When I have clients who are like, "You want me to eat 130 grams of protein?" There's no way in
I
hell I can eat 130
know.
grams of protein. Like, that's like a snack, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's how my wife weighs like around 100 pounds. And for her, like, I'm like, hey, I want you to at least get around 80 grams, give or take. Cause she's, not super lean, but she doesn't need that much. But even for her, 80 grams that's a lot of protein. So it's like, well, she has her scoop of protein with her coffee in the morning. So that knocks
Mhm.
off, 20 to 30 grams, and then a good lunch, little good dinner, and then a little like Greek yogurt at night. And that allows her to sort of hit that and stuff. But yeah, for her, I go, yeah, I just had 100 grams of protein in my one meal, let
Right.
alone just 80 for the day and stuff. For her, it's like it's hard. For me, that's good. I mean, unless I'm having like a gigantic, awesome ribeye or something like this, it's 2 pounds or a 3 pound burger. Sure, I can easily go over that amount, but just a regular meal of whole food, a little bit of veggies on the side, and even when I was carnivore and just eating just protein and just fat, still like it was still harder to eat that much more
Yeah, it's hard.
food. So
Yeah.
people are eating up 3 or 4. That's a lot. Like that's a pound. Let's 3 pounds of meat, give or take, in a day. And if it's, and I found for me differently, like ground beef. If I ground the beef up in like a pan and eat it that way, I don't get half as full as I do if I have that same amount and I make it into patties, because I have to take the time to actually, bite down or chew the patties or break it off in a fork and spend the time extra chewing it up more.
Hmm.
It actually fills me up more, the same amount of volume. So just something like
Yeah.
I learned in my own sort of ways when I was eating, that kind of stuff. I'm like, if I'm going to make ground beef, I'm not just going to make ground beef in a pan and then put it like on a plate with some cheese or something and eat it. I'm going to make burgers with a little bit of cheese, and that's going to fill me up more than the ground beef itself.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, how fast you eat your food does make a difference.
Yeah.
Uh, huh. So what you've basically described for your nutrition is going to be completely different than what most people that follow me or that I have, connections to. They're
Yeah.
thinking, they're like, "Oh my God, all the carbs, all the veggies, their brains are exploding right now."
Hmm.
But I think it's good because, number one, it's a different perspective. Number
Yeah.
two, it also reminds people that there's more than one way to skin a cat, but more importantly, everyone has different goals and everyone's in a different place.
Yeah.
You are metabolically healthy, I would say. You don't
Yeah.
have, as far as I know, you don't seem to have any metabolic syndrome or any issues with insulin resistance or hypertension or cardiovascular disease, anything like that.
Right.
You're at a place where your goals and where you are, the carbs aren't doing as much damage. They're not doing they're not as negative of an impact as someone
Right.
who may be what we call carb sensitive or insulin resistant or have hypertension or obesity and is dealing with a bunch of other stuff where they're getting, part of their problem is the excess carbs and processed foods, right?
Right.
You're focusing on whole foods, high protein, which those are the two biggest things.
Yeah.
I don't care about your carb intake. I don't care about your vegetable intake. If you're focusing on whole foods and protein, then a lot of the other stuff tends to fall into place, right?
Yeah.
It's not always about, is it this much carbs or this much fat or whatever else. I just, who Marty Kendall is?
I think so.
Nutrient optimizer. He's out of Australia.
Okay. Yeah.
He's got an app and he's got a tool that basically helps people focus on their nutrient density, and that is where it's all about.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if we did a profile of your daily intake, you're pretty high on the nutrient density scales, right? Of measurements of all the different micronutrients and stuff,
Yeah.
regardless of your macros, because that's really, that's secondary. And if people can understand that if you focus on nutrients, nutrition, then the macros tend to kind of fall into a place that will work for you.
Right. For sure.
So that's a
Yeah.
big
And I mean,
thing.
I did carnivore for 10 months, you know, for the most part. I did it 3 or 4 strict carnivore when it first started out or a couple of years ago, or last year, I think. And then I sort of just tailored it. And for me, it's one of those where, you know, carbs aren't the enemy. And that's the only problem that you get with like the zealots of everything. It's like carbs aren't the enemy. Grains aren't bad, starches aren't bad, nothing's bad. For individual people, sure, some people might have a negative influence to grains, some might have a negative influence to starches. A lot of it is the processed foods that people are eating. For me, I've tried them all. Like, I know rice doesn't affect me, I know oats don't affect me, I know potatoes don't affect me, nothing affects me. Like, it doesn't hurt me health wise. So it's everybody's got to find the specific like foods that work well with their body. You know, vegetables are good, they have good micronutrients, they have the good fiber. But just because broccoli is technically a good food, some people have adverse effects to broccoli. So doesn't mean everybody should eat broccoli. It's find the ones that you have, and then the amounts that maybe work best for you. And for me as an athlete in training, like carnivore, like food wise, was awesome, because obviously I just got to eat tons of meat and bacon and cheese and all that. For me as an athlete though, there's no question, like, carbs are needed. Like, if you train in an endurance sport or in a long intensity, carbs are the absolute, you have to have carbs. Like, there isn't an elite athlete out there that doesn't use carbs. And I could tell a difference. And I live in Arizona. I run in the desert in 110 degrees. Like, I did it without carbs, but as soon as I add carbs around my training, a lot more energy, more sustained. And my training sessions are 2 hours long or 3 hours long. So that's where now I focus, where yes, I like rice. Yes, I like, you know, potatoes, and yes, I like that, but I don't need those every day. They're not a food for me that like I truly enjoy, like I need to have. So for me, it's when do I need the carbs and I need the energy around my training? Well, for me, cyclic dextrin works super well. Like, works great for my body. It's easy, and that's where I put majority of almost all of my carbs in the day, or before my workout, and then during my workout. And then I have a small amount of vegetables, and then a bunch of huge protein, good quality fats from the meats or from avocados, from healthier oils and those kinds of stuff. And that just, for now, it works really well. Like, my training is, I can train now and get done and go. I pretty much have to pull myself away, because I look at the clock and go, oh, okay, I've been training this long. Sure, I could go for another hour, but more is not better. Better is better. So I'm going to stop now. Whereas without the carbohydrates, when I was training before, I could go and be in there and I could just tell, like, either I'm just done, I don't want to do the session, or I do it and it just wasn't up to where I could have done it. So for me, carbohydrates around my training, and I could even tell it when I was on carnivore, if I took a little bit of honey and went out for a run, just total difference. Even 20 grams for an hour run in the desert was a night and day difference. So that's when I started tweaking the carnivore. I tweaked the carnivore. I'm like, okay, carbohydrates are needed. Now, if you're just going to the gym for an hour and you're doing a normal split and you're not pushing and you're not doing a lot of endurance stuff, do you need them? Probably not. If you're doing mixed modal stuff and you're doing running and biking and you're getting your heart rate up for a long period, over 60 minutes, 90 minutes, carbohydrates you're going to perform better. There's no question. You can't argue that specific part of it.
Yeah. So there's definitely something so we could probably do a whole nother episode on that, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And I think you're in a situation where I would tend to agree, where normally I would not. Okay. And here's why I would tend to agree with you. What's your body fat percentage?
It's sub 9.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And that's why I would tend to agree with you. I think for most people, particularly people over 15%, 20% body fat, if they have the fat to burn, they don't need the carb load, the exogenous carbs, because their body has fuel that they can burn. So you can turn that just like you can turn carbs into glycogen, you can turn fat into glycogen. But your level of athletic endeavors, the activity that you do, is longer and harder than most people, and you don't have the body fat to spare, right? So you need, like, it's so I would be interested for you. I think it would be really cool, and this is just an experiment that I'm having, a thought experiment I'm having in my head right now, is if you went back to carnivore And instead of going with carbs, you used exogenous ketones before a workout, and see if you get the same
I
thing.
used those.
Okay.
I
Do you
used
notice
them,
any,
and they
you didn't seem to get
carbohydrates.
anything out of
No,
that?
no,
Interesting.
not
Interesting.
carbohydrates were the one that as soon as I took in carbohydrates, whether it was a dextrin or whether it was
Yeah.
honey or something, weight night difference. Like the ketones did
Interesting.
absolutely nothing for me energy wise
Okay.
when it was that type of stuff. And for me, I compared it
Yeah.
to, and it was mostly when I was doing that was in the summertime. So even my strength training sessions, it was 100 degrees in the garage, and then I'd go out and run 110 degrees. When
Yeah.
I'm sweating that much and taking in a bunch of electrolytes and all those kinds of stuff, like,
Mhm.
yes, I could do it, but it definitely, as
It
soon
was
as I
harder.
added in the carbohydrates, it was sustained energy the entire, regardless of the heat.
That's
And it
interesting.
didn't have
Okay.
to be a ton. It could be, like I said, 25 grams of carbs of
Sure.
like a take two of honey, and all of a sudden 10 minutes into my run or that, awesome.
You're like,
Like, just,
boom, good.
man, I feel almost like I just started working out, like that kind of
Interesting.
night and
Okay.
day difference.
Wow, that's cool. I love that. That's probably a conversation we can have
Yeah.
on the side, because there's a ton of stuff I'd like to go into that with you. Just at curiosity. Have you ever heard of Zach Bitter?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So,
He's from Arizona, but
oh,
he's
I
one
didn't
of
know
those
that.
too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually lives here and trains in here, and he's one of those where he's, carnivore sort of keto guy, but he's one of those where he's an elite athlete. Like, if you
Yeah.
look at his pre-training and what he eats during a race, it's all carbohydrates. Like, that's what he has to eat that. Like, he doesn't have like his
See,
carbohydrates supposed to.
everything that I've read, it was always that I thought he was carnivore all the way through.
No, any type of his like record setting stuff. Like, he's even, I think it was even on either on
'Cause-
YouTube or on Instagram. Like, he shows like it's all carbohydrates. Like, there's food, there's whole food, and there's like the
Interesting.
sugar sources and stuff, because
Okay.
when he's training and stuff, or he's going for 24 hours straight,
Yeah. When
he's eating
you're going to
carbs.
run in 100 miles, you need
Yeah,
something, right?
yeah, he's eating carbs the entire time.
So that doesn't, I mean, so that doesn't, it surprises me because I thought it was the other way around. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it doesn't surprise me because with what I know about it, like he's probably under 9%. Like he's about as lean as you can get. So he doesn't have fuel on his body unless he's
Yeah.
breaking down muscle, which is not what he wants to do.
Right.
So he's got to he's got to go with something. So that makes sense. Okay. So, I mean, I think for anybody listening, don't get confused about what we're talking about, right?
Right.
We're not saying that you have to have carbs. We're not saying
No.
that you don't have to have carbs. We're saying is look at your situation, look at what your goals are, look at your current level of health and fitness and how hard you're doing. All of these factors kind of go into it, and then figure out what works best for you. Because there is no, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. It's like what works best for you. And what Torrey's saying is he's doing it this way. He doesn't see any harmful side effects. He's not having any inflammation that he can tell. He's not having any, the IBS or skin eczema, or like he's not having any of these things that from the veggies and the carbs, and it gives him energy. I am completely opposite. I don't do veggies at all. I'm 100% carnivore, and I have no problems either with my workouts. So what works for you is what's going to work. Just remember, and I think this is the key thing that I say almost every podcast, what works for you now may not work for you 6 months from now or a year from now or whatever. Seasonal changes, lifestyle changes, stress at work, things happen in the family, your schedule changes, all types of things can affect what you're doing, and your nutrition is part of that. So you have to be aware of how all of that stuff plays in together and reevaluate every once in a while to make sure that what you're doing is optimal.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got to give it time, you got to give it 30 or 60 days when you try something.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people do too is they change a ton of different things. If you want to make changes, make one specific change and then see if that actually works. That's the biggest thing. And that's where, for me, being as structured as I am, I'm very tailored. Like, I know my nutrition inside out. I've tracked for 15 plus years using a scale. So like, I know that my training, I program for myself. And even when I had coaches, like, it was structured. My lifestyle habits, everything's in place. Like, I go to bed, I wake up, I get enough water, I manage my stress, I do those kinds of stuff. So for me to make a change, it's easy for me to just take out a specific thing or add one thing in, and then give it that time frame, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks. Did I make a difference? I didn't really change anything. Okay, well, I know that wasn't it. Or I definitely noticed an improvement. It wasn't, oh, I cut out this and then I also did this, this, and this, and then you don't know what actually, made that change.
Yeah. What's the minimum time you think from a change perspective that someone should give? I usually say at least 3 weeks to kind of see if it's working or making a difference. Is that?
Yeah, I would say bare minimum 3 weeks. I'd
Yeah.
say 3 weeks to 4 weeks is a good sort of, just, you got to give it time, right? You've got to give one to make the change. So then you've got to give your body time to sort of readjust to that change, and
Hmm.
then a little bit of time extra there to sort of have that change in place, and then to see actually how it is actually going to work, whether it's going to be
Right.
negative, positive, or there's not going to be a difference.
I guess it also makes it it depends on what the change is. Like if you're
Yeah.
going from a high carb diet to a low carb diet, then that you need to give that some time, because that's going to take a little bit of time for your body to adjust. If
Yeah.
you're just taking out broccoli, that could be 2 weeks, and that could be three
Yeah.
days. Right? People say food
Yeah.
sensitivities are 72 hours, right? So that could take
Yeah.
3 days before you notice, hey, this is better or this is worse. So
Right.
yeah, okay, cool. All right, so we talked about your fitness. We talked about your age, or how old you are. My gosh, you're so old. Um, we've talked about your nutrition habits and what you do there. Where do you where do you see? Here's a really good question. First off, what do you classify your genre of fitness? I call, I'm a functional fitness guy. I'm looking at
Yeah.
quality of life is my goal for my clients.
Yep.
Is that kind of where you're at with stuff?
Yep. I definitely am functional fitness now. Like, that's just where I focused at, because I've done the specific types of powerlifting and
Right.
bodybuilding and weightlifting and just in CrossFit, like classes and metcons and that kind of stuff. And now it's my quality of movement. I'm doing the functional patterns in this kind of stuff. Just
Mhm.
one, I enjoy them, and two, the degree of difficulty that they can entail, and it just helps me outside of the gym itself, as far as just being overall healthy, being able to go for hikes and those kinds of things
Right.
easier, do them better. So definitely functional fitness is where I sort of
Yeah.
tend, and most of my clients sort of fall in that range too.
And that was where I was going to go with the next piece, is where do you see fitness going post COVID, post all of this stuff? I know virtual training is like blown up right now because everybody's got a Zoom account now. Everybody's doing stuff
Yeah.
virtually. Um, you think that's going to stay? Are we going to hold on to that a little bit? Like what? And then
I
if
think
we
there's, I
are,
think,
what are
mhm,
people looking for? Because this is where I want to take this. What should people look for when they're looking for a program, if they're looking for a virtual program?
right. So I think, is it going to stay? Sure. Because there's a lot of people that have dabbled in this or have been forced to try this out and really enjoy it. They like not having to go to a gym. They like
Mhm.
the structure of it and those kinds of things. But there's always still going to be people that like to go to the gym. There's always going to be people that still like somebody in person, still might like this,
Mhm.
even face to face over a Zoom doing it. But there's still those people that want the in person relationship. So I don't think
Right.
that's ever going to go. This might go a little bit more, and it might pan back out just depending on when the time comes that we're sort of back to normal again, and things open up. Yeah, I mean, I know some of my clients and just other people that have gotten home gyms because of this,
Mhm.
and are never going back to the gym because this is just awesome. I don't need to go to the gym. I can do what I want when I want. I don't have to share my equipment. I don't have to worry
Yeah.
about take ins for us, like they do functional fitness. I'm not just going to do bench press. I'm going to do bench press plus pull ups plus something else,
Mhm.
a part of a program. So I don't have to worry about taking up one or two or three or four different pieces of equipment at the same time in a gym. I'm in my own space. Like, I can do what
Right.
I want to do and things like that. So, and then as far as what people sort of want, I always say, if you're not sure, try it out. It can't hurt, because
Mhm.
you might get into powerlifting, like that sort of how it's put together as a programming, and really enjoy it. I had clients like that they like that structure, they like that set thing of knowing, hey, Tuesday's squat day, Thursday's this is this. I like this kind of structure. I did it for 9 months before when I competed on it. After that, I don't want this. Like, it's just that's too structured for me as
Yeah.
far as that goes. So if you're not sure on something, try it out. And usually with most of my clients, sort of, I get their assessment, like, what style do you do? Do you just do bodybuilding? Do you just do a standard thing? Do you do CrossFit? What do you do? And
Mhm.
then sort of build that around them. And if they're not sure, I said, well, let's put this together based on this. Let's try this out, and then let's evaluate. What do you
Right.
like? What don't you like? What do you hate? What do you love? What do you want more of, less of? And then just sort of structuring that around them. Some people don't want to do AMRAPs. They just, that whole, as many rounds as
Idea.
possible in their head, it's, oh, I don't want to ever do those. So great, not do that. So then you just sort of, then I can reprogram it to, 3 supersets of these 3 exercises,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden they're sort of getting that in there, but they're not having the AMRAP sort of sense. So it's
Right.
just structuring it around what somebody wants. If you're not sure on functional fitness, if you're not sure if you ever want to do, a powerlifting sort of thing or a bodybuilding sort of set split, try it out for 30 days, 60
Yeah.
days, 3 months, and just sort of see. You can get results on any type of style if it's
Hmm.
properly programmed. It just comes down to, what do you enjoy doing? Like,
Right.
I didn't
Right.
enjoy powerlifting. I did the bodybuilding for 15 years and it worked. Obviously, it's where I got my foundation from. But for me to go back and down, just do a chest day, and that, it'd just be too boring. Like,
I
I
need my
like my,
sandbag.
that's right. I need my squat. I love my kettlebells. Like, I never thought I was into kettlebells as much, but because of COVID, I invested in a ton. I did a
Yep.
certification course to sort of learn on how to actually do them,
Cool. Which one did you
instruct
do?
my client. It was Kettlebell RX. It was an online one.
Okay.
Super cool people. It was,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, 4 weeks long or something like that. So it wasn't super long, a couple times per week, for like an hour, but
Okay.
learned a ton as far as like quality of movement and stuff, and just what
Hmm.
you can do with the kettlebells. Just, that's like
So
my
much stuff.
new sort of, I love them. I'm just,
Yeah.
if I only had to pick one, I would pick that over a barbell or a dumbbell. And I never would have done that even a year ago,
Absolutely.
at all.
Yep. I'm all in on kettlebells. I wish I wish I wish I had more training in them. I mean, I've got some training. I've got CrossFit training. I've done some RKC stuff. I've been looking at the Strong First courses. They're just
Mm-hmm.
expensive. Um,
Yeah.
and then I've dabbled in IKC. So the different sport versus hard style in the kettlebells, 2 completely different things. Which are the differences in the mechanics and physics of kettlebell work for what I guess we could say fitness versus sport just fascinates me.
Oh,
It's really cool.
yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
cool.
And
It's
you,
really cool.
and you don't realize, I mean, until you try something, it's like with any sport, like
Right.
until you try it, or even in a lightweight, you see the men and women that can snatch for 10 minutes straight, or for 30 minutes, or they do the long cycle of clean and jerk for 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Like, just grab a set of 19-pound bells and
Right.
just try it. You get
Right.
into a minute or 2 minutes, and all of a sudden you're just toast. And this guy's doing this with 70-pound kettlebells for 30
Right.
minutes straight.
Right. Super
Super impressed.
cool. Well, I appreciate your time, man. I think we'll probably have to follow up again some other time, kind of see how
Yeah,
things are going. Tell everybody that's listening a little bit about what you do, where they can find you, what you've got to offer, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, for sure. I pretty much do online programming mostly. I do programming for training, for nutrition, and for both, just depending on what somebody's
Mhm.
sort of looking for.
Mhm.
Um, I do assessment, and then I do, obviously the warm up, the training, the cool down, mobility stuff, active recovery days, all those kinds of stuff. And then I help somebody with their nutrition as well, depending on what their goals are. I have
Right.
carnivore clients right now. I have normal clients. I have clients across the board. So it's one of those where, depending on what somebody's doing, helping people with that aspect of it. I can be found on, mostly I'm active on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is just Torrey Penn, TORREYPENN, and then the Facebook is Torrey.Penn.
Okay.
So I'm there to if I can answer questions and help people along the way, I definitely will do that.
Absolutely, man. Cool. And you do mostly one-on-one? Do you do group stuff, or is it just your one-on-one
Mostly just
specialized?
one-on-one. Yep,
Okay.
mostly one-on-one. All
Okay.
one-on-one. Mostly it's all online, unless I have some clients that are in the Arizona area, that if they need to meet up for like an in-person training session or to go over nutrition or whatever the
Yeah.
case
Yeah.
is, I'm all for that too. So
Dude, you know what? I got to come out there and visit you.
yeah,
That's too. I gotta. Don't let me forget that. We got to figure out a time. I've got like because all of my trips for last year got canceled.
mm.
I've got like thousands of Southwest points that I need to
Oh
use up.
yeah,
So I'm like, where
yeah.
can I go? What can I do?
Oh
Arizona sounds like a great idea.
yeah. You come in like the springtime or the fall time, and it's just
Okay.
beautiful, because and then you can, like, training's good. There's tons of hiking. Like, you can, go to restaurants, and there's things to, like, there's tons of stuff to do outside. Like, right now it's beautiful weather out. It's obviously a little colder, but then in the summertime, most people that aren't equipped with it, from June until like August, when it's 100 plus degrees every single day, you're
Yeah.
really not hiking unless you're going at 5 in the morning
Okay.
early, and you've got to be done before like 6:30 or 7 because the sun's rays are that hot, kind of thing. But spring, fall, depending on that time, tons of colors that change too as well. But the hiking is just awesome. And then of
Okay.
course there's tons of delicious food too. So
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it too.
Just gotta figure out how to stop the recording.